mind the other week. And it was Joan that kind of brought it up. So thanks, Joan. And I've learned a lot from this already, so I can go and sit down. A lot of religions, we don't know what they actually believe in. A lot of religions, that we talk to on the street, that we maybe have contact with, they invite us along to wherever, and we haven't got a clue what they believe in. So I thought that we would maybe take a few different religions, not all of them. We maybe touch on some of the others as we're going through photographs out. So this one here is a kingdom hall. And in most towns, you have kingdom halls. Now, I was told if you're trying to do an investigation into something, follow the money. So this is where it all starts. Now, from the kingdom hall, people come in and they do. They'll go poof and they're up. It's amazing. It's called a quick build. Next one, Mike, please. So these are assembly halls of Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, around the country, this country and countries throughout the world, they have assembly halls. Some of them are old cinemas that they've taken over. Others are buildings that they've commandeered, factories and places like that. I think this one here is in Dudley in the West Midlands. Next one, Mike. They've also got farms throughout the world. This is one of their farms in America. They're well kept, aren't they? Really well kept, beautiful. A lot of money in that, isn't there? A lot of money there. Next one, Mike. That's another farm, believe it or not. Absolutely amazing farm buildings. So this is where the money's filtering through. Next one, Mike. The one on the left is another farm. Got some people standing in front of it so you can see what size it is. And they actually do factory farm animals. On the right-hand side are their printing presses. And in nearly every country, the headquarters have got printing presses. And they churn out lots and lots of literature, either books, pamphlets, tracts, the Watchtower, and the Watchtower's companion, the Awake. Next one, Mike. Distribution depots. They've got distribution depots in some places that will actually compete with Amazon. It's absolutely amazing. So you can see what an absolutely amazing money-making concern it is. Next one, Mike, please. This is one of their offices in the country. So there are a few of these. Wherever you go in whichever country, the major countries in the world have got area offices. Next one, Mike. The one on the left is the one in New York, and I think the other one's in somewhere else in America. But they have one in this country in Chelmsford, which is just being built, and it's worth millions. Next one, Mike. This is the headquarters in Japan. Just one country, Japan. They manufacture literature, do literature for a lot of the countries and a lot of literature in Asian countries, so a lot of different translations. Next one, Mike, please. This is the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses. Think of the money that there is there. All in buildings, yeah. And the ground beyond as well. All of the woodland area, all of that belongs to the witnesses. Is that in? I think it's sitting there, Mike. Yeah, that's blank. That's what the rest of the talk is. So you can see that there's a lot of money there. And all of it comes from the distribution of various literature. They amass lots and lots of money. Now, to put it into context, as I said, if you want to try and find out about an organization, chase the money. So the largest landowner in this country is reputed to be the Church of England. The largest landowner in the world is the Catholic Church, supposedly. We can trace, for instance, what the Church of the Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, you can see exactly what money they bring in because all of their accounts filter through America. It's in America. They all go through a particular city there that they've basically taken over. Jehovah's Witnesses, on the other hand, are very, very difficult to be able to track down. The Catholics are very, very clever because they give accounts for each individual area. So in each area they have a diocese, and the diocese, they're answerable to the church in this country. We've got, for instance, we kind of straddle two of the dioceses, and the main one here that seems to be pushing further and further south is the Diocese of Hexham and Newcastle. So they're all answerable to the country's organisation, which is under the direction of a cardinal, and they are then answerable to the Pope in Rome. You can follow their accounts because each area, each diocese, produce their own accounts. So you can add all the dioceses throughout the world and you get together their accounts, and that's pretty easy. The witnesses, on the other hand, are very, very difficult to track. You look at all these different things and all the various aspects of what they do. They don't centrally have conditions put on them that they've got to put their money into a central organisation, but they do. So it's very clever the way that they do it. And when you get time, go on the internet and track down. Well, try to track down. I found it very, very difficult. It took some time in trying to track down where the money went, where the witness money went. And it's really, really difficult to be able to see where the money goes, except in buildings. There used to be, all of the different kingdom halls were registered charities in their own right. They've now changed that over the last 2 or 3 years. Gradually, all of them are becoming one charity under the country's charity status. So if you go onto the Charities Commission website, you can actually go into a kingdom hall, and you can see that maybe within the last 2 years, a lot of them have come off, but they're still there. So it's now been centralized. But where does the money go? Where can you follow the money to? It's very, very difficult to be able to track down the money. And a lot of it is because they don't want you to know. Quite simple, isn't it? If you've got nothing to hide, you show people. They don't have, in any given year, they won't have a balance sheet. I mean, every year we produce a balance sheet like we did the other week. Was it last week? Yeah. So we did a balance sheet so you can see what we do with the money, and it's very transparent. Theirs isn't. So that's something to be careful of. So I'd like you to take your trip down memory lane, Ken. 1870, when you were just a young lad. In America, the Baptist Church were really, really strong. And with a lot of strong organizations, lots of splinter organizations break off. And one of them was the Christian Zionism. They became very political, as well as being an organization that supposedly looked after people's spirituality. From that religious movement, in turn, a lot of little splinters started coming off it. And there was one pastor from that, well, pastor in name. His name was Charles Taze Russell. Charles Taze Russell, who had been a minister in Christian Zionism, kind of that had broken away, he was very, very interested in Bible study. So he began some Bible study groups, quite similar to the Bible study groups that we have today. But he realized that there was something else at stake. He realized that the working people at the time, a lot of them didn't have any hope, quite honestly. You know, they went off to work. It was just before the First World War, and we know what happened there, and the whole world was pitched into global conflict. So another one of the branch offs was American Christian Adventists, who are still even strong today. So you can see they were breaking off all, quite confusing really, all these splinter groups. At that time in 1870, Ken, you'll remember Pope Pius IX, he decided that for Catholics the Pope was infallible. So you can imagine that would have caused a little bit of conflict around the world, wouldn't it? The Pope saying, right, from now on, anything religious, anything moral, I've got the last say. You've got no say at all. That's all down to me. Faith and morals, getting them all mixed up together. In 1870, France declared war on Prussia. For those who were historically minded, who's historic? Where Prussia, Joe? Yeah. Part of Germany, part of Russia, part of Poland, a lot of other little countries around, they were Prussia. And they and France started having a war. So the world was in a right old bit of a mess. Very similar to today, really, in a lot of ways. So, also that day, another thing that happened then, black American men were given the vote. Man, it became very difficult to vote when you got the Ku Klux Klan trying to kill them, but they were given the vote. Not a lot of them could take it up. Different from today, but similar to today. So in his capacity as a minister, Russell started this Bible study group. And that was where he lived in Pennsylvania in America. By 1879, Russell's following had grown quite substantially, and he was able to publish a monthly magazine called the Zion Watchtower and Herald of Christ's Presence. His partner, again chasing the money, was a fellow by the name of Connolly. Connolly had a lot of money, and he financed the printing of this. Connolly also had a printing works, which also helped, and that's where a lot of the money came from. That was the very, very beginning of it all. They started using words like theocratic, meaning ruled by God. So whenever anything went wrong, it was God's fault because it's theocratic. So there was a little bit of a thing that happened with a fellow by the name of Peters. Peters was also a contemporary of Connolly and Russell at the same time. And Peters brought out this kind of competitive journal to the Watchtower, which obviously Russell didn't like. So him and Connolly fell out over it completely. But by then, all the money that you saw there had started rolling in. So America, first of all, and then one by one, countries were taken over by what were then the international Bible students. It's really strange when you think that from the humble beginnings of that, because of people putting a few dollars into a pot for a couple of magazines, and they stand on the street corners, and they pass them out, and very quickly the money was amassed, particularly then. So by 1884, Connolly was replaced as the president of the International Bible Students by Russell himself. So Russell by then was in complete control. The sermons became more pointed. The sermons became a little bit strange from what they had been. So he's taken scriptures and he was maybe putting a different slant on things. By the time of his death in 1916, Charles Russell had amassed a small fortune, and that was the start of Jehovah's Witnesses, or the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. He was never ordained. He was never a minister. He wasn't theocratically trained. He couldn't speak Greek. He couldn't speak Hebrew. He wasn't a scholar in any sense of the imagination. But he was very, very clever. So when Russell died, left a bit of a void, and a fellow by the name of, who had become a little bit of a follower of Russell's, came along, and he was Rutherford, Judge Rutherford, Judge Joseph Rutherford. And he took what was then the orphaned organization, and he gave them the name Jehovah's Witnesses. And he brought in a lot of different teachings of that time, some that the witnesses have had a difficulty in actually reconciling today. Things like birthdays. No birthdays. Can't celebrate them because the Bible only spoke of 2 birthdays, and they weren't spoken of by Christians. They weren't Christians that celebrated them, so it must be pagan. Christmas, well, obviously, we know how Christmas happened, so that took it by the by. And a lot of these teachings, Jehovah's Witnesses just don't follow. So they started swinging away from Christianity in a really huge way. In the early days, Russell had said to everybody that he was the faithful and discreet slave. By the time it came to Rutherford's time, he was the faithful and discreet slave. So the scriptures in the Bible that talked about faithful and discreet slave, Rutherford was he. Today they still believe in the faithful and discreet slave, but they believe that that's the organization that runs Jehovah's Witnesses. He then brought in, although Russell had mentioned about 1914 being a major part in man's history, Rutherford then said that it was the time of the end, 1914, the beginning of the time. By then, of course, 1914 had happened, so it couldn't have been the end of the world, as Russell had been teaching. So he brought in a different slant on it. He said, well, that was the beginning of the times of the end. Something that they've actually, just within the last couple of years, they've changed yet again. So the teachings are a bit flimsy, a bit flip-flop, and all over the place. Russell had about 5 or 6 clothing stores, and when he died, they were sold for approximately, I think it was about the equivalent of today of about $500,000, which gets nowhere near the amount of money that they've got in property today. But obviously, there was a bit of money that came in from Connolly, but the biggest part was from the distribution of literature. He also brought in things like only 144,000 would go to heaven. Now, we know the Bible talks about people that will eventually colonate the earth. It talks in the Lord's Prayer, it says, thy kingdom come on the earth as it is in heaven. It also says in parts of the Bible, that the meek will inherit the earth. But he took that on one side, and he said that you've got this 144,000, which is, there's 144,000 mentioned in the Bible, worth looking at and worth looking up because it's quite involved. But he took that and he said that means there's only 144,000 going to heaven, which has become a bit. And then he also said that only one of the 144,000 could take the bread and the wine. So we've just all experienced taking bread and wine to remember that Christ died for us. He said that was only meant for the 144,000. But as they started dying, and he had brought in the thoughts that, the definite dogmatic way that they could only celebrate once a year on the day that Jesus actually made it on just before he died, they said that keep doing it in remembrance of me means every year. That's not keep doing it, is it? That's do it every year. So he said every year, but nowadays they've got a problem because all that 144,000 have died. So when they have the remembrance every year, once a year, they pass the emblems round. Nobody takes them because there's nobody left among the 144,000, which is a bit shambolic to my mind. So a lot of these things were brought in by Rutherford. Rutherford was very clever in the way that he did it, and gradually this organization really started motoring. After that, we had a fellow by the name of Nathan Noor that took over from Rutherford. And gradually, a lot of things, they've changed scriptural attitudes. They printed their own Bible. Nathan Noor printed the Witness Bible, and he changed scriptures and the meanings of scriptures by putting commas. And in Greek, of course, there isn't any not any vowels. The consonants are in there. So he put vowels in where they shouldn't be, put commas in where they shouldn't be. And if you look at John 1:1 in their Bible, which is the Witness Bible, usually green, and John 1:1, they're saying that Jesus was a God, not God, but a God. So they don't believe in the Trinity either. So why do people keep going? Well, the answer is quite simple. They have 5 or 6 meetings a week. And when they study from the Watchtower, one of the publications they study from. And when you study in the Watchtower, somebody at the front, somebody reads the paragraph. There's a question at the bottom, the question's asked, and then you can only give the answer from the paragraph. So gradually people are brainwashed into what they want them to believe. Very subtle way of brainwashing, because we often say, oh, Jehovah's Witnesses, they're brainwashed. But we probably don't know why they're brainwashed, but that's how they do it. They're doing a lot of other publications as well. So they'll do a question and answer, they've got the paragraph, they read the paragraph, and underneath you've got the question's asked, and then you've got to answer it from that paragraph. So the answer's in that paragraph, and if anybody says anything different, they say, well, that's not what it says in the paragraph. So gradually people are brainwashed. They've also got a system whereby, because you've got 5 or 6 meetings a week, people don't have a lot of time for much else with work and everything else, so they come along and most of their life revolves around the Kingdom Hall. If anybody steps out of line, they can be disfellowshipped. And if they're disfellowshipped, they're jettisoned into the world without any support. And there are lots of people that have been jettisoned out of the witnesses because they believed something different or they stood up for something different. And what they've done is, because they've jettisoned them out, nobody can talk to them. It's not allowed. That's a really loving organization, isn't it? Got rid of them, can't talk to them. If you say you're sorry, you can come back in again. And then gradually you can work your way back in again. Gradually. From the front of their Kingdom Hall, they'll preach from the front of the Kingdom Hall what you've done wrong. It's like pointing the finger at somebody, isn't it? And he did this. Absolutely horrendous. But at the same time, this disfellowshipping means that other witnesses can't talk to them while they're disfellowshipped. So they're cast off all on their own without anybody being able to talk to them. And then quite a number have committed suicide because they've been cast off away from the other witnesses. They do some things right, some things good, that we can maybe take a leaf out of their book and preach the Bible. But unfortunately, they teach a different slant on the Bible from the one that we know is the truth. We should be more diligent in doing that, I agree, but maybe we're the truth. Actually, that's a strange thing, you call it the truth, because the witnesses call their way of life the truth. So all of it permeates right the way back to the time of Charles Taze Russell. Then it goes on to Judge Rutherford, Nathan Noah. There have been 2 or 3 since then. I don't even know who it is now. But all of these things gradually are corrupting what the scriptures say. We all know what it says at the end of the scriptures. That anybody takes away, anybody adds anything, then they're answerable to God over it. The concept of Armageddon is maybe a different concept. And they believe, they're following very, very closely what Ken mentioned about what's happening at the moment in the Middle East. And some of what they say is truth. Some of the things that they say are truth. It's got an element of truth in it. It's very difficult to dissect what's truth and what's not. So it's very, very difficult to be able to take it apart. But if anybody says anything, Ken often brings the point up, don't you, Ken, about the Bereans? Take the scriptures. Somebody says something to you, don't just accept it for what they say. Take it away and learn about it and find out what it actually says. And a lot of us take things, like I'm saying this morning. I hope you take it away, and dissect it, and have a look at it. And if you've got any questions afterwards, then by all means, ask me questions about it. That's good. So we've got a situation with an organization that continues to grow under the radar. Nobody knows where the money goes. Everybody thinks that. And they're well-presented people, collars and ties. I used to think that because I had seen witnesses around, I thought that all Christians wore Laura Ashley frocks and had sandals on. And that was only the fellas. But they're well presented and well turned out. So that puts an air of authority on it, doesn't it? Because you see somebody like that. Because we believe the news, when somebody on the news is sitting there with the collar and tie on. They don't let many people speak in Geordie. So talk the news on national television, do they? Regional television, we're already doing that. So that's something just to be careful of. Watch out for false teachings. Even within our own church, if somebody says something to you, find out the backing for it. Find out. Talk to somebody that maybe have a little bit of an idea. Somebody that's been a Christian for a while, maybe got a little bit of an idea. And if you feel that it may not be true, it's a good chance it's not, because God's Spirit will be talking to you. Mike, would it be possible to have Mike there? Oh, there. Can we have the Lord's my shepherd on, Mike? If possible. Oh, sorry. Yeah. 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 Whatever they say, though, yeah, I think it's good that you're looking at the Bible, but look at it, always check it out what they're saying to make sure that it's true. Because, like I said, some of it's true that they're saying, but that's how they get into the system, into you, because they maybe say something that gets you, and you think, oh yeah, that's right, because it says it there. But just check it out. But check it out in maybe one of our Christian versions of the Bible, one Christian, like something like a modern translation of the Bible. You get a better idea from that exactly what it's saying. Yeah, 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 yeah. There's a scripture in the Bible that says that some people will have a form of godly devotion but prove false to its power. I think you've got to be careful that, that's what's happening. That, and I'm not saying that, it, you looking at the Bible is not a bad thing. And I hope that anybody in this church wouldn't ask you for any money either. So a lot of people say that I've never been asked for any money. But a lot of people feel that they've got to because it's what everybody else does. So when you're at the, yeah, that's fine, that's fine. They don't pass the plate round, do they? Yeah, yeah. So that's good, but you're stronger. You're a strong person. Yeah. Can I just say this is great because I think that we should do more of this when somebody's preached. We open it up to discussion because it's really, really good. Because that's what we're about, isn't it? We don't find out things unless we talk about it. And thank you, John, for doing that because sometimes we maybe keep it inside and we think that that's, yeah, 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 yeah. Like Ken says, check it out. It's always a good thing, it's the acid test in anything that you do. Yeah, no. Well, Michael, I believe Michael is Jesus. Yeah. Something that I've not mentioned, because it's too emotive, I purposely didn't mention blood transfusions. And I didn't mention that because that's too emotive. And that could have gone on forever. But, that's something different. Yeah, exactly. That's different again from taking a blood transfusion. Pardon? Yeah. Great. We'll have a song then, Mike. Please. Oh, sorry, Joe. Yeah. 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 Super point, Joe. Yeah. 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 Well, thank you for asking me to bring it up. That's good. Yeah.